This screencast is going to show you how to make a basic etched and cut design for the laser cutter using Illustrator. So we're going to start by going to the Start menu and looking for Illustrator, ILL, Adobe Illustrator, and opening it. There are so many things that you can do for the laser cutter with Illustrator. It's kind of hard to narrow it down, but I'm going to show you the basics of how you would have something etched and how you would have something cut and what you can make with it beyond that. There's almost no limitation. So we wait for it to open, and this is going to be for your practice project, creating something that you can keep for yourself or give to someone else. And I'll have a specific screencast for creating your buildings as well. So as you can see, it can take a little time to open the program. When it first opens, it just gives you this black screen, and you're going to have to start a new project. So go to File, New. This allows you to set up what's called your artboard, which is your workspace on Illustrator. Name it your last name, and then underscore and practice. We just need one artboard, and we want to use inches instead of points so that we can set the size of our board based on the size of your project or the size of our cutting bed on the laser cutter. For this project, I would like it to be no more than 4 by 6 inches. So I'm going to set my width for 6 and my height for 4. You can set it the other way if you want to. It just as a whole needs to be no more than 4 by 6. So now I have my workspace. And you can see there are all kinds of tools here. We're going to focus on a few of the main tools to get the job done, what you need here. So I'm going to start by drawing my outside shape. And I think I'll show you what it would look like if you were going to create a picture frame. So this tool, any of the tools, if you click in the bottom right corner when they have this little mark and hold, they'll give you more options. So I'm just going to use the rectangle, but you can draw other types of shapes here as well. So choose the rectangle, and if it gives you this screen, you can actually set the exact width that you want for width and height. So I'm going to make mine almost the entire size of my workspace. I'm going to make it, let's see, the width I'm going to make 5.75, and the height I will make 3.75. You can see it drew the rectangle for me, and then I need the little black arrow if I want to move things around. You can see I accidentally drew an extra one. I can just click backspace or delete on the keyboard to get rid of it. And now I'm going to move this so it's all on my workspace. So I'm going to try making a picture frame. So this is going to be the outside cut line of the frame. And then I'm going to need the inside cut line as well. So it'll cut it out of a big piece of wood, and then it will cut the center out to make it a picture frame. To do that, I'm going to need another rectangle. And this one, I'm going to make it the size for a 3 by 5 photo because that's kind of a typical size for a photo. So my width will be 5 and my height will be 3. Now I want to make sure that this is going to be directly in the center of the rest of my frame. So I can hold down the Shift key and select both rectangles at the same time. And then I want to use my alignment tools, which are showing up here right now as they're both selected. So I want them to be centered vertically, and I also want them to be centered horizontally. So right here. So now it should be directly in the center. So this will be the outside of my picture frame. And now I want to personalize it and make it more interesting. So I'm going to use the text tool right here. And I can click here and it gives me some options for the font that I want and the size. And I'm going to put my name on this frame. This looks a bit small to me, so I'm going to make it larger and I'm going to try changing the font. And you can get samples here to see what the different fonts will look like. So I'm going to look for one that I think would look good. Let's see. Try this, and I want it larger as well. That might be getting too big. We'll have to just kind of play around with it and see. And that'll actually work. And I also want it to be centered within this outside rectangle. So again, to make sure it's centered, I'm going to select all of the pieces and center them together by holding down the Shift key while I click on them. And then I want to horizontally align them. And I'm going to move them all over too, so they're centered on my workspace better. And then I'm going to also add in some other little design, a picture. So to do that, I'm going to go to File and Place. And Place is what we use on here to bring in pictures instead of Insert, which is commonly used in other programs. And I've already saved one in my H drive that I can use. And you can save them from off the internet. You want to find, it works easiest if you find things that are pretty simple, and black and white works the best. There are ways that you can work with other pictures, but to start with, I would stick with something black and white with fairly simple lines. And you can see this picture is much larger than I want. So I'm going to resize it. And the easiest way to do that is to actually go up here to the top, and we want to lock these so that it constrains, so that if you change the height, the width will change accordingly and keep it to scale. And I probably want it, I'll try 2 inches and see what that looks like. And it doesn't want to do anything. Let's see. There we go. And sometimes it then moves it somewhere. That's going to be way too large, which makes sense if I think about my frame. But now I can try, it's probably actually going to be more like maybe a 1/2 inch. We'll see if that works. And I don't want it to go over those lines, so I need it smaller. So I'll do 0.25. There we go. So I'll just have a little design next to my name. But you could put scrolling lines, you could draw your own pictures in here, you could put text all around the sides. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. I'm just showing you the basics. The other thing I want to do now is click on the picture, and I actually want to do an image trace, and this turns it into a vector image where it's using lines, and it also makes sure that it's going to go with your design when you save it, so that it's not trying to go and find this file. It's going to make it a part of what you're doing. You can see it changed it a little bit. There are ways you can go up to, I'm going to go to undo, and you can go up to the window and actually open the image trace window and it gives you some more options. So if you don't like the results, you can try changing some things on here to see if it works any better. And play around with it a little bit. And that doesn't look a whole lot better. I can also try changing the threshold. So I would maybe keep playing around with it. For the purpose of this, I will just stick with that. Okay, so there's something else I need to do here, because what I want is for my name and this picture to be etched. So that's where the laser is going to cut into the wood but not cut through the wood, and it's going to go back and forth along the wood to make these parts darker. And I want these paths actually cut all the way through so that I have my frame cut out of the wood. And we need to set different colors for these lines in order for the laser cutter to know what it's supposed to be doing. So it's very, very important that you do the colors and the stroke sizes correctly for the laser cutter to work with it correctly. So any line you want cut all the way through needs to be, so this is the fill and this is the line. The line needs to be yellow, pure yellow from the top here. And the stroke needs to be 0.25. If it's larger than 0.25, then the laser cutter thinks it's multiple lines and it will go over it several times and burn through it too much. So I want this cut as well. I'm going to do the same thing. It should be yellow and it should be 0.25. Now it's going to cut all the yellow and it's going to etch these pieces down here. And that is how you do your first basic practice. The other thing is just saving it correctly. So you're going to make sure you go to File, Save As, and we're going to be putting them in the S drive, and Schlegel, Students, 8th grade laser projects, practice. And then it should be already named with your last name and practice. So you'll just click Save. And this assures I can get to it over at the laser cutter so that I can actually create your project for you. This should all be fine, except sometimes include linked files is not selected, and I would select that just in case one of your images is just trying to link to it so that it can find it. Then click OK, and you're done with your first project.